Have you noticed how the UK, once the world's most powerful empire, is now struggling to keep its own economy afloat? High prices, weak growth, rising living costs, declining productivity, and endless political drama. It feels like Britain can't catch a break. But what's really going on behind the headlines? Is the UK actually collapsing or just stuck in a long, painful slowdown? Let's find out. An analysis of the UK economy in 2025 shows that while it is not technically in recession, its growth remains historically weak. Key reasons include slow recovery compared to other G7 nations and stagnation in real per capita income, persistently low productivity since 2019, and growing economic inactivity due to long-term health issues. Structural pressures from Brexit are affecting trade and labor supply. High public debt, reaching over 101% of GDP, requires tight fiscal measures that limit economic stimulus. Together, these factors are undermining the UK's long-term growth potential, pushing the country toward what can be called a lost decade, similar to Japan's experience in the 1990s. Part 1. Macroeconomic Landscape 2025. International institutions predict that the UK is not headed for economic collapse in 2025, but growth will be extremely weak. The OBR lowered its GDP growth forecast for 2025 from 2% to 1.1%. The IMF revised its forecast slightly upward from 1.2% to 1.3%. The OECD increased its forecast from 1.3% to 1.4%. These forecasts show a narrow range and do not indicate a severe recession. However, the public often feels as if the economy is collapsing due to the difference between total GDP growth and real GDP per capita. While total GDP grows slightly, population growth and weak productivity leave citizens' real economic output almost stagnant. OBR projects a modest 0.3% growth in real GDP per person in 2025, following a 0.9% decline in 2023 and a 0.1% decline in 2024. This slight growth will not visibly improve purchasing power or living standards, signaling persistent economic weakness. High and volatile inflation adds further challenges. OBR predicted CPI inflation reaching 3.7% in March 2025. The Bank of England confirmed inflation at 3.8% in August 2025, driven by food price spikes and rising service costs in hotels and restaurants. The combination of weak growth and high inflation leaves the Bank of England in a difficult position. Average interest rates from 2025 to 2029 are expected at 3.9%, higher than previously forecast, limiting policy flexibility. Part 2. Structural deficits. Long-term economic weakness stems from structural issues, slow productivity growth, and declining labor participation. Productivity is the engine of growth. Since 2019, the UK has seen persistently low productivity growth, limiting the economy's long-term capacity. In Q2 of 2025, output per hour worked was 0.8% lower than the previous year. OBR has reduced its trend productivity growth forecast from 6.0% to 5.2% for 2023 to 2029, lowering potential GDP growth from 10.2% to 9.7%. Labor supply is also under strain. 2.8 million working-age people were economically inactive due to long-term illness in Q1 of 2025, an increase of 661,000 since the pandemic. Around 22% of under 60 workers may leave the labor force early due to poor health, significantly impacting productivity and labor quality. Brexit has added permanent structural pressures affecting trade flows, immigration, and foreign direct investment, further limiting long-term growth. Part 4. Household and sectoral pressures. The weakest economic impact is felt in households and consumer spending, the main drivers of the UK economy. Following the COVID-19 pandemic and rising living costs, the UK has experienced a lost half-decade in real income growth. The Resolution Foundation forecasts zero growth in real income for non-pensioners in 2025 to 26. Rising taxes and council levies further erode disposable income, even if nominal earnings rise. Credit dependence is rising. Debt advisory services report record numbers of clients in early 2025. April 2025 surveys show 14% of adults increased credit use due to higher living costs, supporting short-term consumption but increasing long-term financial stress. Housing market growth is slow. Savills projects house price growth of just 1% in 2025, down from 4% earlier. RSM estimates prices rising 1% to 2%. High mortgage rates and structural market dynamics are slowing housing activity, further limiting consumer spending. Part 4. External vulnerabilities and geopolitical risks. The UK's open economy makes it highly sensitive to global shocks. Energy price spikes from geopolitical tensions, such as the Russia-Ukraine war, continue to impact costs. Mid-2025 conflicts in the Middle East caused gas prices to jump 20% within 9 days, increasing costs for households and businesses alike. These external shocks amplify domestic economic weaknesses. Stagnation or Japanification. The weak growth in 2025 raises the risk of long-term stagnation. Since Brexit 2016 to 2025, UK growth averaged 0.8% per year, below Japan's 1992-2001 lost decade average of 1.0%. Unlike Japan, the UK faces persistent inflation, limiting the central bank's ability to stimulate the economy. This may lead to neutral stagnation, where potential growth is low, demand remains weak, and traditional stimulus tools are less effective. Conclusion. The UK economy in 2025 is constrained by weak growth, long-term structural deficits, and tight fiscal policy. These challenges are interconnected. Structural issues must be addressed to overcome stagnation, but fiscal and monetary constraints make this difficult. Upcoming policy decisions, especially in regard to investment and government spending, will be crucial in determining the UK's economic trajectory.